Hang in
Dude,
there. It
that
is. Smylie Kaufman for 61. Wow.
I'm Smylie Kaufman, and this is The Smylie Show.
Welcome back to The Smylie Show. I am Charlie Hume. I'm doing a bit of solo duty at the moment as Smylie Kaufman is in the midst of a hard-earned vacation at the moment, somewhere tropical. The man has been traveling all over the United States for the better part of this year, broadcasting golf, giving you commentary here on The Smylie Show. And it's time. It's time for him to enjoy a little bit of well-deserved time off alongside Francie and Anna Carter. So I'm happy that they're doing that. Today we have a conversation he recorded before heading on vacation with Jason Dufner. It is a fantastic conversation. As a fly on the wall, I loved every bit of this. So let me just set this up with the help of our friends from Ahead. And today's headline from Ahead is Trust-Based Relationships. Ahead builds and manages digital platforms that power the most successful organizations in the world. Their consultative approach, unmatched engineering, and innovative solutions combine to accelerate the impact of technology in every client they serve. Ahead's longstanding relationships are built on outcomes and experience with both their clients and technology partners. You can learn more at ahead.com. Here's what we got for you with Dufner today. We have some chipping tips, some short game tips, like keep a wedge nearby because you're going to want to, as I did, listen to what Jason's saying, work on some grip stuff, work on some wrist angle, things like that. Just listen and try to learn. It will help you. I promise. It's already made an impact on my short game. He's going to talk a little bit about going through some mental struggles. He and Smylie both sort of aligned on that and talked about what they learned through that process, the way they've worked on that. Really helpful for anyone who's trying to master the mental side of the game. And then, of course, he's Jason Dufner. He's got plenty of amazing stories in the game of golf from just, things from his playing career, but also some funny stuff alongside fellow players. So lots to unpack here. You're going to want to listen or watch every minute of this interview. I am no longer going to filibuster. I'm going to hand this right off now to Smylie and Jason Dufner. Hope you enjoyed this conversation.
All right, welcome back to another episode of The Smylie Show. Have an incredible guest on here today, Jason Dufner. Duff, super excited about having you on. Just saw you recently down in Auburn at your foundation event. Of course, you guys have done incredible work in the community in Auburn. Just tell us a little about the foundation, all the work you have done, and how much money you've raised.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I did the No Laying Up podcast. So this is my second podcast. It's very few and far between for me on podcasts and
come on
these types of things. But the tour players are always good at scratching each other's backs, and I appreciate you taking the time last week.
No, of course, man. I love supporting
our foundation, and it's the least I could do to grab this time to hop on the podcast and talk about golf and talk about some other stuff. But yeah, the foundation is locally based here in Auburn. Been about almost 15 years. And our big mission is food insecurity. So what we do is obviously we raise money, and I run my own program. So we don't really donate to other programs. And all the money that we raise goes right here to the kids in Lee County. So we pack on Thursdays. I got a wonderful group of volunteers. Mostly retirees. We have a lot of people that have come back to Auburn. A lot of times they went to school here, went off and worked and did other things in life, and then have decided to retire. So I've got a great group of volunteers that pack on Thursdays. And then we give out food for the weekends, 1st through 5th grade. Free or reduced lunch is how you qualify. And, we got some non-perishable goods in these bags for these kids to take home on the weekends, usually like oatmeals and canned vegetables, canned fruits and snacks and all these things. So it's been really nice to be able to use the platform I have. And people recognize what I did in the game of golf to kind of give back to the local community.
Yeah, you're definitely a legend in Auburn. You could see that, especially anytime I'm at your event in Auburn. We're driving down. You have a road named after you in Auburn too, correct?
Yeah, I think it's a parking lot right now.
It's a parking lot right now?
It's over at Moore's Mill. Yeah, so the community's been great to me. We love living here. I've been here full time since 2002. Obviously, I went to school here for 95 to 2000. So it's been a great time here in Auburn, and the community is very supportive of what I do and supporting me throughout my career.
Yeah, Duff, how did you end up in Auburn? Because I know you weren't born in the Auburn area or Alabama for that matter. So how you ended up there? You walked on the team, right?
I did, yeah. I got a little bit of a late start in golf. I played a lot of other sports growing up as a kid. Sports were a big thing in my household. My grandfather actually played baseball for the White Sox for a little bit. The baseball was huge. My dad was a big basketball guy. He walked on, played for about a year at Kent State. So sports were always a part of our lives. They played golf casually. I knew about golf. I would go to the driving range. We had an executive course, like a little 9-hole, mostly par threes, maybe a par 4, par 5 in there. And I would do that just kind of in the summer times because that's what my grandfather and my dad did, right?
Yeah.
But I never really got serious till we moved. I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, so you only really had this summertime months to play. But I really didn't get serious till I moved to South Florida when I was 15 and just started I moved from Cleveland to South Florida, and it's hard to fit in. And, in high school, like everybody's got their, and kids already have their cliques when you're starting kind of in the 9th grade. So I kind of trended towards golf because I could do it alone. I could do it by myself. I didn't need friends to do it. We were members at a golf club, Weston Hills, which is where they had the Honda Classic for about 4 or 5 years. So I got to see these guys once a year up close and in person, and it just kind of developed from there. But I didn't play a lot of junior golf. I probably started playing junior golf right around the summer of my junior year. So in between junior and senior year.
Jeez.
I think my first AJGA event, national event, was the summer of my senior year after I had already graduated. So that's kind of late on the radar for, going to college and thinking that you can play in college and being recruited. I actually qualified for the Pub Links that summer. After. So, I was starting to have some good success. And felt like I could play Division I golf and just pick some schools. I really wanted to go to Florida because I had friends that were going to Florida, but Coach Alexander at the time told me he doesn't take on walk-ons, and he didn't have a qualifier. So,
which of course, Buddy now is of course volunteer assistant at Auburn, and it's a big part of the program for the men's and women's teams there.
Reminded him multiple times of that I would have loved to have been a Gator, but that didn't work out. He
coached my parents at LSU.
Okay, yeah. So I looked there. That wasn't going to work. I looked at FSU. I looked at Clemson, and I looked at Auburn, and you just kept
on going north until you found a D1 program that would take you.
And I need to find a school that I could get accepted to without the athletic department help. So Auburn accepted me. We came and visited. The program was a good program. They actually had 4 guys leaving that year. That kind of was part of the reason why I felt like I could come in and compete as long as I had a good week of walking on, I guess you could call it, in the qualifying. I got to campus and I was just a regular student. I lived in the dorms. There was an empty field, which is now like the nursing school building off of campus. And I would literally go to class in the morning. Sometimes I would miss class, and I would literally hit balls in that field and shag my own balls. I didn't have a car when I first got to school. So I just kind of figured it out, and that's how it went, and figured out when the qualifier was for walking on. And I think I borrowed like somebody's car in the dorm and gave them like $20 or something ridiculous and said, "Hey, can I borrow your car this afternoon? I need to go over to Indian Pines," which is where the qualifier was, which is over by the airport. And I hadn't played a round of golf since I had been on campus for probably maybe 6 weeks or something like that. And I ended up shooting 66. So I'm like, okay.
That was enough.
the Tigers, 31-17, Matt, on the season. They've got the best pitching in baseball, but don't look now. The Twins are now on their heels at 26-21.
The best hitters can't stay healthy. We obviously saw a situation last week where two of those guys got hurt on the same play. So that's the Twins, and I think Twins fans, I'm up in Twins country. Twins fans know that up here, and you're kind of always waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Boston knew they were in trouble, Tom, but the most important thing is they fed off of their crowd, and in that third quarter, when Boston could have made a run, the Knicks just put that one last run together to put the game away.
So it was good to see them, to round this all together, good to see them finally put all the pieces in place to close out the series and say, yes, we are playing our best basketball, because that's what they're going to need against the Pacers.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Chiefs Chargers in Brazil on Friday on YouTube. They're going to give everyone that game for free. They're so generous because the rest of the season they're going to fleece you for all your money.
That's one, Scott. That division, to me, based on what's happened to the Chiefs the last couple seasons, that division, the AFC West, could be up for grabs here. I know Chiefs fans think I'm probably out of my mind.
Pharrell, coast to coast. Only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
That was pretty good. And then, it was a 2 or 3 round qualifier. I can't remember. And I get back to my dorm and I'm doing whatever you do when you're in college as a freshman. I get a phone call and it's Coach Griffin, who was the men's coach at the time. And he's like, hey, I'm looking for Jason Dufner. And I'm like, this is him. And he's like, hey, I was wondering, you shot 66 in the qualifier today for walk-on? I was like, yes, sir. And he's like, okay, well, I need to verify that with some of the guys to make sure it's legit. And if it is, you don't have to do the qualifier anymore. And I'd like for you to come practice with the team. I think that was on a Friday or something. And they had practice and they played 9 holes on Saturday. So I show up on Saturday. I think I bummed another car ride somehow, some way over there. And he put me with the guys that were the best on the team at that time. He's looking for verification, right? And we played 9 holes and I shot 33 for those 9 holes. So, and that's just kind of how it started. So everybody's story is a little different. But I just felt like I was always a competitor. I played sports. I competed. Maybe I was a little late in the game with golf, but, that's just kind of how it worked out for me.
Did Coach Griffin put you on scholarship pretty soon after your freshman year? Were you making the lineup that freshman year?
Yeah, so I played in the first tournament.
Wow.
That was in the fall. I think they had one event at the end of the fall that when I was on the team, but then I didn't go. And then I finished second in the qualifier for the spring. And I went to Hawaii, first event, finished 10th and played a significant amount for my 4 years. I didn't get scholarship, obviously, that first year. And then I think the second year I might have gotten some scholarship, but my grades were pretty questionable. So there was is he even going to be here type of thing. And I think my second year I was on books, but then my last handful of years, I was here 5 years. I redshirted my 4th year because I needed to finish school. And that was the deal with my parents is you need to graduate before you can play professional golf. So I think the last couple of years, obviously I had some type of scholarship, but
I mean, should you get to Auburn in 95 and then all of a sudden in 2001, you have nationwide tour status. And I'm just looking, from 2001 to 2006, with one of those years having status on the PGA Tour in 2004. What do you remember most about that span of time? Because, you're coming off a college of wait, 90. I mean, it wasn't too long ago where you're just now playing your first AJGA event. Now you're playing in a qualifier where you didn't play for 6 weeks, and somehow 4 years later, you're playing professional golf.
Yeah, I had a decent college career. I won a couple times. I was an All-American a couple times, All SEC. But it wasn't a sure thing. And the thing that's weird about golf is anybody can turn pro, right? You don't really know how it's going to go. Obviously, the guys that are All-Americans and those high-ranked players, people think are going to be part of the tour, but I certainly wasn't one of those guys. But, I set out to be a professional. I rounded up some money. My parents gave me some money. I had some friends in town that gave me some money. I started with about $30,000. And I went and played the Golden Bear Tour, which was a summer professional tour.
Florida?
It was in Palm Beach. Yeah, we played all those courses down and around Jupiter. Our tour championship was at the Bears Club, which had just opened.
Sick.
So yeah, it was one of those things where it was like a whole summer. You wrote a check for X amount of dollars. And it's pretty much organized gambling is what it is. Everybody's paying about $1,000 a week. There's some fees taken out for running the tournament. And you're just seeing kind of where you stack up and how you stack up and trying to make some more money so you can keep going. And obviously back then the Q School was a big thing in the fall. So, I went down there and I had some success. I played well. I didn't win, but I was making money, and I actually was able to kind of bankroll that into continuing to play on the mini tours. My first go around at Q School, I think I got through first stage, but I didn't make past second. So you kind of find other tournaments around to go play. We'd play some in Jacksonville in the winter and Atlanta in the spring. And then I planned to go back down to South Florida in 2001. And you'd get off weeks. So every time you got an off week, maybe you'd go chase a qualifier, if you could. So I ended up Monday qualifying for an event in Hershey, Pennsylvania on what is now the Corn Ferry Tour on an off week early in the Golden Bear season that year in the summer. And I finished I think 12th or so. And back then top 25 got you in the next one. And the next one was in Wichita. So I packed my bags and went to Wichita and ended up winning the second Corn Ferry. I think it was buy.com back then. Event, and that gave me status. So from there you're just going with it. I almost got my card. I think they took 15 or so that year that I played to the tour, and I ended up finishing 20th with about half of the season played. So I felt good about it. The next 2 years were a bit of a struggle. I ended up keeping my card, but I wasn't close to making it on tour. And then 2003 I had a big year. I think I finished about 4th or 5th on the money list, and 04 was my first year on tour.
So I think most people, when they think of Jason Dufner and just your overall game, you think about just elite ball striking. And I want to kind of talk about the beginning part of your career, which you just talked about. I read that in 2007, you had hired Chuck Cook. So before that time, before you had hired Chuck, how would you describe your game? Was it a lot of the same? Were you a really good ball striker? Or maybe were there some areas that were a little bit better back then before kind of everybody got to know the Jason Dufner that we watch week in and week out?
Yeah, I think my ball striking was always the strongest part of my game throughout the entirety of my career. I was able to have a pretty simple swing that could manage the pressure of what you're trying to do in that moment. That swing that I played with for a long time produced results under pressure. So the ball striking was always really good. I needed to get better at short game stuff, which Chuck helped me a lot with. Also understanding tendencies in my golf swing. I could be very streaky at times in those early years of a professional, but he gave me some really simple things that I could cue on so that if things got off, I could get back on track pretty quick. And the other thing that Chuck really helped me with him being involved with Tom Kite and Payne Stewart and Corey Pavin, is just learning how to be a professional. Learning how to practice and prepare and, have these good routines and habits that would produce good play.
Vegas knows how to celebrate. If you're headed to Vegas for your birthday, plan ahead to get all the birthday freebies the city has to offer. Just by showing your ID, you could get free cash play, scratch cards, drinks, and food at various venues on the Strip. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
You are a Pirates fan. I don't think you've got a reason good enough for me to be wearing Met stuff when the Mets are playing the Pirates right now. I don't think I'm gonna go, okay, I see it at the end of your explanation.
I'm gonna put it on Vinny. I'm gonna put it on all the Mets fans. The Pirates won 2 in a row. Fired the manager over the weekend. A new era of Pirates baseball has begun.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that rim. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple of 15.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
But that really helped me elevate my game because I always had, a nice tool set with the ball striking, clean up some of the short game stuff. I'll be honest with you, I never really worried about my putting. I didn't even care about it. And, that's kind of reflective.
Because you hit it good enough?
Yeah, I always felt like there would be enough weeks that, I could putt well. And I'll be honest, when I took a dive to improve my putting, I got a lot worse. It's like I found out like how bad I was and became self-conscious about it. Later in my career, when I was playing full time, I even had the yips. Like, I'd be deathly afraid of 20-inch putts out there, and that was something hard. But when I went down that rabbit hole of understanding the putting, I got really bad. So, but I think Chuck was a great part of my career and my life, and he really helped me with some of the physical stuff, just understanding my patterns and my habits, but just how to be a professional, how to prepare, how to manage all these things that are uncomfortable with being a PGA professional.
Was the waggle something that was always there from day one with you? Just the, loosening up the hands. Did you learn that? Was that something you read and you're like, oh, I'm going to try that out? Is that always been there?
I think for me, I played a lot of baseball growing up. So when I was in the batter's box, the bat was always moving, right? I didn't like to be stationary. In baseball, you're kind of moving around, and then all of a sudden you get in that set position, right? You're waiting for the pitcher and his delivery. So the bat was always moving, and I'm always moving, and that felt comfortable for me. So in golf, if you watch, I'm waggling, I'm moving my feet. I think that's part of the reason I've struggled with the putting is because that's a very static positioning. I've tried to you see guys tap the putter or raise the putter, but you watch Patrick Cantley's always moving his feet when he's doing it, right? But I've always been so static with my putting, and I think that's been a difficult transition to figure some of that out. But there's nothing it's not the same amount every time. There's no pre-shot feel. I think it's just that part of me that wants to be athletic in that moment.
So when we talk about the yips, I've always had this debate with players that have struggled with their game, whether it's the golf swing or it's the chipping or the putting. For you, the putting, like me, ball striking. I've always argued for me that I always felt technique-wise was the reason why I had mental struggles with the golf game. I felt like my technique was bad, and it led to mental issues that I would have with the game. For you with the putting, Duff, do you think that it was more so technique like you kind of just recently talked about, maybe the stroke wasn't quite as good as you thought, and that led you to feeling like, oh gosh, this is now a mental battle because you're building scar tissue of, hey, this is the miss and the stroke pattern that I want to avoid.
Yeah, so I actually have done personally a deep dive on that, and then I've spoken to some people, and I finally found a guy that's in the golf space now. His name's Jason Kuhn. I'm sure you're familiar with the name. He worked with Lucas Glover. I spent some time with Jason. I probably
Marine
found him
sniper, right?
That's right. He used to be a pitcher that had the yips, and then joined the Marine Corps and was Navy SEAL sniper, and so he kind of hit the nail on the head for me. I do think that it becomes it starts as a technical issue. But what happens is because you have these failures, and I think it only happens to certain types of people. If you're fairly self-conscious and you kind of like care about what other people think a little bit, or it's embarrassing and these things happen, it'll flare on you, right? And what happens, and Jason agrees with this, and I came to the same conclusion, is your subconscious kicks in, right? And your subconscious says, hey, remember last time we were in this situation and this was painful? It could be an injury, right? You could have a technical issue because of an injury that's painful, or it could be emotionally painful or mentally painful or embarrassing. Your subconscious kicks in and you go right into that flight mode, fight or flight, right? So, I think I had a technical issue that led to poor putting, that eventually turned into scar tissue in whatever way, mentally, probably not physically with my putting, but definitely mentally and emotionally, that your subconscious, that's a natural thing. Your subconscious is constantly telling you in life, hey, be careful about this, be careful about that. It doesn't know that putting or driving isn't life-threatening, but it knows that the situation has been painful. So it is warning you, and you can either go into the flight mode, which is what I went into for a while, or you can fight, right? And that's what they train. And that's where Jason developed his kind of protocols, is through, when you're in the military, they teach you to override that flight mode and you go right to the fight. So
Playing online blackjack and want to try upping your odds? Well, here's a tip. Cheat cards tell you statistics for whether you hit or stand on every move. If you're into stats, this could be your ticket to winning. And it is totally legal. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
If you believe he should be in the Hall of Fame, there's, let's let him wait another 2 years. Wait, he's already dead at this point. Like, what are you waiting for? Another 2 to 3 years. He's either in or he's out. And sometimes you look at that too, Tom, and say, you can't tell, the history of Major League Baseball without Pete Rose.
Frankly, the writers have some standard that they want to hold players to, which seems to fluctuate on a player-to-player basis. So he should be in the Hall of Fame, but I'm not sure how quickly he'll get there.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
I'm not saying this thing is scripted, but damn it, they put those two teams on the first weekend of the basketball season for a reason, because they were expecting some kind of fireworks. They got it. Did Angel Reese overreact? Probably. Did Caitlin Clark have to stare it down? Probably not. There's enough blame to go both sides. But guess who doesn't care? That's the WNBA.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that rim. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple of 15.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
feel much better with my putting than I ever have. I wouldn't say it's great by any standards, but at least now I don't take a long time to actually pull the putter back and have all these kind of yippy situations. And, it'd probably be something I deal with my whole career, but now I have
a plan,
different ways of managing it. Right.
Yeah. The word yip, I think, is just a word that no athlete ever wants to speak. They want to talk about it. And I think when you and I spoke, this is back in Napa, I would say probably 2 or 3 years ago, and you openly were talking about it. For me, it struck a chord in that it's like, okay, I've been in the same shoes of, okay, the subconscious stuff, the fight or flight, the embarrassment, all the things you just talked about is what I've 1000% dealt with. But I don't think I was quite as open about using that word. When did you finally feel comfortable to talk
that's
about
part
that?
of it. I think that's one thing that Jason says. It is what it is, right? I'm not going to sugarcoat it. And it's not something that I'm embarrassed about. It's a natural response in human behavior, in human life, to have your subconscious remind you of these things. We're just happening to perform on, these stages that are very elevated and the stakes are high. So I think anytime that I've been around somebody or I know somebody that is struggling with these things, I encourage them to talk about it openly, because then that reduces kind of the stigma that is associated with it in your subconscious. Your subconscious doesn't have a perception of reality. It only knows what you tell it, right? And however you make the situation. That's a big thing that Jason talked to me about, is you can rewire that and you can untrain these uncomfortable situations. So like one of the things that I've done when I'm competing is if I feel yippy on a stroke and I missed it, I'll go and rewire that to where I actually make it with a confident stroke in my mind, so that it doesn't sit in my subconscious as like, this is something to be afraid of, right? It doesn't know what happened and what didn't happen. It only knows what you tell it, if that makes sense.
For me, it's that first, bad driver that I hit, it just hangs out. And I'm trying to picture the million good drives that I've hit the day before on the range.
It only remembers the one.
It just only remembers the one. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, it's crazy how quickly your body does not want to respond to what is good. Yeah. And you just, and your balance and your rhythm, everything just is so
there's
bad.
A bunch of, you need to, when you're doing it, there's a lot of self-talk you need to do. I'm sure with you, and it's a little different with putting, but I'm sure the anticipation of the first tee shot was just like miserable. Like you're going from the putting green to the first hole.
I just want nobody to be there. And I want to just
scenarios, so for me, it would be as soon as the ball hits the green, you can start to feel the change, right? Or if you miss the green, you're like, oh shit, I better chip this really close, right? That type of stuff.
We can laugh about it, but it's a nightmare.
Well, it's no place to play the PGA Tour. I can promise you that. I could hide it a little bit because the ball striking can really, you can have some good resorts. You can have good results with good ball striking. But for you, if you can't get off the tee, that's like the whole start.
It helps to not be hitting 3 or 5 from the tee. Yeah.
I can 2-putt a lot and still put up decent scores.
Yeah.
Because my ball striking would be good enough.
I thought this was something so interesting too when we had this conversation a couple years back. You talked a lot about dry firing, so not hitting any contact.
That's another one of his that I got from him. So you are trying to rewire the connection between the mental and the physical of what you want the stroke to feel like, right? So no results. Like I'll hit, if I'm training that, I'll just hit into the baseboard in the basement or into those plain boards they have that are on the ground.
Yeah, so the ball's not rolling anywhere. There's no results.
I'm literally rolling the ball like 8 inches. And then it hits the board and it comes back to me because you're just trying to rewire what the mechanical motion feels like, to where that yip or whatever that is that's happening is gone, so that your mind and your body understand that that's not part of the action anymore. So with a driver, you would probably tee up a driver and half swing it into a net, making that contact feel perfect in that, right?
Were you able to, go through these scenarios though, to where you could create some sort of fight or flight scenario in your head of like walking to the green, picturing yourself being there?
That's a hard one.
You know what I'm saying? Because like, how can you simulate what maybe your body feels and like how to control? Like, did you discover anything with your stroke? I guess is what I'm asking.
Not really. It's really, you have to be in that moment, in that environment, and use these tools, is the phrase for them, to overcome it. I think going into fight mode, which he's very specific about what that is and how to accomplish that, being open with it, like telling yourself, hey, one of the things that I would tell myself is like, hey, I appreciate you warning me that this could be dangerous, but I'm going to choose freedom in this moment, and it's only a 3-foot putt, and nothing drastically is going to happen to me.
Like you're like a bear is not going to to the woods and tackle you for missing it.
No. So you have this self-talk you're doing a lot to override these feelings, and then to change the whatever you call it when you're trying to perform an action, to change the motor control, more or less.
Is there any books that you read during this period of time that you think that would be helpful to the audience that are people that are golfers that are dealing with the same things that you and I are talking about? Or a podcast or anything?
I would try and find anything that you can find from Jason Kuhn. I'll be honest with you. I mean, I did pay him, and I do endorse him, but he really helped me understand. And he was the first person that I spoke to, or the first thing that I saw that resonated, like, hey, that's how I feel. That's what I think is happening. To me, that was game changing for me. Yeah. And I had some better results. I started talking to him in the fall of 2023, but that was pretty much my last full year on tour.
Right.
But I played last year, and for me, I just want clean, like make or miss, whatever. I just don't want to feel that, in my stroke, and feel that anxiety and that anticipation of whatever's about to happen. And I would say that significantly has diminished. So we'll see in 2 years when I'm competing on Champions Tour how I feel about it, but he's definitely giving me more tools in my toolbox to manage that.
Yeah. The last thing I'm going to kind of talk about with this subject is some advice that I had gotten in this whole realm of conversation is to try to create what would be called maybe new experiences as a player. So what I mean by that is, so for instance, for me would be a totally different swing feel, or example, another one would be like Lucas Glover going from a regular putter to a long putter. This is a totally different experience for your mind and body to like relearn how to do something that seems so foreign, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that helps a lot too. I think in putting, it's pretty easy. You could go conventional, cross-handed, claw, mid-length, long length. You have lots of options.
Did you try any of those options, I guess?
I like the mid-length, and then I've gone claw some. So I played 2 weeks ago, and I had been punting cross-handed, standard length. And then for whatever stupid reason on Friday, probably because it's alternate shot and I have a partner and I don't want to, look like an idiot, I just didn't feel good. So I was like, whatever, I'm going to go to claw. And I went to claw and managed it, right? So
good.
Just another tool in the toolbox. I think I got PGA coming up, and I worked with some of the stats guys, and I really putted probably my best when I was at that mid-length putter length. So I've been standard, but I think I'm going to go back to the mid-length, about 38 inches.
Yeah.
So that's an option. It will change the feel. It will change the experience, as you're saying. Until you have bad experiences with the mid-length.
buy or sell, Devers will be traded this season. Let's also not forget that there's $300 million on the table due to Devers, which eliminates him from, what would you say, like 17 teams?
Oh, I would think more than 17, maybe 27. That's a joke, but how many teams could afford him? All right, 5, 6. How many teams need a third baseman who can't play third base? You know, how many people want to deal with his attitude? He hasn't come off looking good at any of this. Whether you believe he should have anyway, he doesn't look good at this. Will he be traded? No, he won't be traded. The salary alone makes it highly unlikely. He's a great hitter. All right, no doubt he can hit. But other than that, there's too many between the money and the attitude and no really position for him here. He's not getting dealt anytime soon.
Buy or sell, if the season ended today, Hunter Brown would win the American League Cy Young Award.
Hunter Brown has been fantastic. All right, the guy that Craig's teasing, by the way, is Tariq Skubal of the Detroit Tigers here, who's certainly right up there with them. Max Fried for the Yankees has had a fantastic season. They finally lost a start where he pitched in against Seattle the other day. They'd won every start. He's been fantastic. The season ended today. Would Hunter Brown win the American Cy Young Award? I certainly couldn't argue it if he did. That being said, he's going up against Skubal, who won it last year, going up against Fried of the Yankees. My guess is that he'll need a year. You understand what I'm saying? He needs a year before he can get that kind of recognition if he's tied with somebody. If he's clearly ahead, then I think he would win here. But as of right now, would he win it? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say it would be probably Max Fried.
Fantasy Sports Today. Weekends starting at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Only on SportsGrid.
So I think, you have to watch yourself, especially with tour players, about changing too much.
Yeah.
I think you want to find guys, like, show me stuff when you're really good. If we can get 3D of it, like the gear stuff,
yeah,
now you can really see things that have changed. But I try to keep it simple, try to give them some confidence. The short game stuff you can play around with a lot because that's really easy to learn and change.
So I talked to Michael Johnson, who played his golf at Auburn, an All-American there, great player playing on the Korn Ferry Tour. I texted him because he'll often just like randomly say, yeah, when I was at Auburn, Duff taught me this shot. And I texted him before this and say, hey, what should I ask Duff in this interview? And Michael said, you need to ask him about Vijay Singh. And I was like, Vijay Singh? He said, why? He's like, well, he used to play like a bunch of practice rounds with him, and he's got a ton of stories about VJ and about all of the things that he used to try around the greens. I mean, was it ridiculous?
Yeah, it was pretty silly what he did. So I was a rookie in 2004, which was the year VJ won 10 events.
Yeah.
And before that season started, I was down in Jacksonville in the winter of 2003. And I had always followed VJ when I was in college. I went to the event in Firestone, and like for whatever reason, I just saw this guy and I was like, oh, I'm going to check him out. And I'd watch him play. And like, he was kind of my guy when I was in high school and college. We used to have the event out here at Callaway Gardens in college. We'd go out there. I'd go watch VJ. So I got my card 2003. Yeah. I was in Jacksonville. He's on the range, and VJ's supposed to be like, don't poke the bear type of guy.
He's
like,
a tough cookie. He's a tough cookie.
I just went up to him. I was like, hey, I'm Jason Dufner. I'm going to be on tour next year. I said, I used to, watch you at Firestone and the Honda Classic and the Buick event. And like, you're pretty much like my guy. If I could ever play a practice round with you or whatever, that'd be great. And, he's kind of like, he's like, oh, that's nice. And then he's like, all right, I'm going to practice. I'm like, okay. I'm like, guess we're not playing a practice round ever. Cool. So I was down there for like a month, and every time I would beat VJ to the practice facility in the morning, and I would stay until he left. So then, like, after about 2 or 3 weeks of that, he finally comes over to me and he's like, hey, bro, here's my number. Everybody was bro. He's like, here's my number. If you want to play, whenever you start, just text me and we'll play. So I played every Tuesday with VJ for that whole season when we were in the same event.
Wow.
And I took a beating financially. We would always play the same. We would play $1,000 match play event, and you could press for half once you lost. And I beat him one time. I beat him one time. No, I just take the beating for $1,000.
I'm about to say that'd be good sound financial advice.
I beat him one time. I birded the last hole of the shoot, like 62 or 3 at Nemacolin, which was an old event that's no longer on the schedule, and I beat him 1 up. So he was winning 10 times a year, and then he was literally shooting like 66 or better every time on Tuesday, just beating me into the ground. But that was another invaluable experience for me to be around a guy who's playing that well, who at the time was a top 10 player in the world. I think he was number 1, won the PGA that year. Just to see how he practiced and what he did. And you get a real quick appreciation for where they're at and what he's doing, and then kind of like what you're doing. So
yeah,
you know,
look in the mirror situation.
Yeah. So I knew I needed to step it up. I needed to get better. And he didn't really know what he was doing, but he was just doing it. You know what I mean? Which is another great quality of tour players. Like if you ask a lot of guys on tour, like, hey, how'd that happen? They have no idea. They just do it. Right. So I was able to take video and just kind of look and figure out and piece together like what's happening. How is this happening? And, you know, that was when they had the square grooves were still allowed and ball was a little bit softer, but like he would do stuff around the greens that would just, you'd be like, oh my God.
Well, what'd you discover? Yeah. Did you discover anything from the video?
Well, he got a lot of that stuff from Seve because he played a lot in Europe with Seve and Tom Pernice. And, you know, like some of the biggest thing for me with chipping is people want to stay in flexion too long. And they don't want to get into extension. So when you go into extension, that really is a big shallowing piece with your upper body, right? If you watch Seve, he would tilt down and then he would come into extension. It's a huge way to shallow. So you never get any turf. Like VJ was always clipping these pitch shots, like on the tightest stuff you've ever seen, like clipping it like right off the bottom couple grooves, and that's how you get the most spin. There's no interaction with the turf, and the way to do that is with the extension piece. And then he had all these trick shots where he was basically cutting across it so much that he could put so much speed on it, and the smash would be low. So high speed is going to be high spin, but we don't want it to go far, so it's like a glancing blow, right? And he's putting this crazy, and you know, just all these little setup tricks. And like if you watch anything with Seve, which is out on the internet, like you can piece it together pretty quick. And VJ was doing all the same things.
And I've watched you hit wedge shots before, and I think you've described it as you like to feel like the ball is on the face a very long time. And so for bad wedge players, you can always tell if you're right in front of them watching and you see this ball jump off the face and go up into the air. Most of the time, they're not going to be a very good wedge player.
High launch, low spin is not good for pitching and chipping and wedge play.
Explain the mechanics for you of how you feel low launch, high spin.
So a lot of it for me is club face angle on the takeaway. So BJ had a pretty weak grip, and he liked to have a lot of cup in his golf swing, and that's imperative in my opinion for chipping and pitching, because when the wrist is cupped and the toe is up and the face is more open, now I can use this flex this wrist angle and really lay that into it. And then I'm able to lean the shaft and do that. And if I have extension, then I'm not going to get diggy into the ground. So I'm getting that clean strike with a shallow compression, and that's how you really pick up the speed. But if you go back shut, you're not going to feel the loft. Right. And then a lot of people want to add the loft coming in. And what happens is this would be shut to open. That's what you want to try and avoid. You really want to have it open.
buy or sell Devers will be traded this season. Let's also not forget that there's $300 million on the table due to Devers, which eliminates him from, what would you say, like 17 teams?
Oh, I would think more than 17, maybe 27. Oh, that's a joke. But how many teams could afford him? All right, 5, 6. How many teams needed a third baseman who can't play third base? You know, how many people want to deal with his attitude? He hasn't come off looking good in any of this. Whether you believe he should have anyway, he doesn't look good at this. Will he be traded? No, he won't be traded. The salary alone makes it highly unlikely. He's a great hitter. All right, no doubt he can hit. But other than that, there's too many between the money and the attitude and no really position for him here. He's not getting dealt anytime soon.
Buy or sell, if the season ended today, Hunter Brown would win the American League Cy Young Award.
Hunter Brown has been fantastic. All right, the guy that Craig's teasing, by the way, is Tariq Skubal of the Detroit Tigers here, who's certainly right up there with them. Max Fried for the Yankees has had a fantastic season. They finally lost a start where he pitched in against Seattle the other day. They'd won every start. He's been fantastic. The season ended today. Would Hunter Brown win the American Cy Young Award? I certainly couldn't argue it if he did. That being said, he's going up against Skubal, who won it last year, going up against Fried of the Yankees. My guess is he wouldn't, that he'll need a year. You understand what I'm saying? He needs a year before he can get that kind of recognition if he's tied with somebody. If he's clearly ahead, then I think he would win here. But as of right now, would he win it? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say it would be probably Max Fried.
Fantasy Sports Today. Weekends starting at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Only on SportsGrid.
A lot of good short game guys, usually weak grips, open face. Luke Donald was really good at it. Tiger was really good at doing that in the short game, but the opposite in his full game. Jordan Spieth's been really good at it. JT does a great job varying between the two. But that's usually why guys that have a lot of good short game, because they usually play with these weak left wrists and open faces. That's great for short game and inside 30 yards. but it's terrible for your long stuff, right? So you got to be able to do opposite ends.
Trust me, I know.
And guys that can lean the shaft and can press it with their full swings generally struggle with putting and chipping too. There's like this balance of, can I do both, if that makes sense?
And I think the one other piece of this that I want to ask you about is wrist hinge on the way back with all of this in mind. Correct me if I'm wrong, you believe in a bit of width when you're hitting these wedge shots.
Yeah, I think it's very player dependent because I see it. Guys do both ends, right? I think
Hideki would be like Hideki. He hinges it, and then
I see guys like Jason Day and Steve Stricker. No wrists, no elbows, but they roll their forearms. Forearms roll to get the face open. And then I see guys that look real wristy and hingy and like all this action.
Yeah.
And it's getting open. So I think you can go both ways with it. I think the main thing is that the face has to be getting open and toe up. I think like Rory does that in his golf swing a lot. And
he kind of has it shut and he picks it like,
and he's got this. He's got this in his short game, and he's got it in his wedges, and that that's a tough one. But he does it. Some guys do it in their golf swings. So if you do it in your golf swing, it's gonna be easy for you. But if you're a guy with a strong grip or a weak grip and you like to do this, it's harder. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense. And if you've been listening to all this, we have to make sure that you go and watch the YouTube, as Dufner and I both have been doing a lot of things with our hands over the last about 10 minutes, describing all of these feels that we're talking about. One last question about VJ, because this is the story that I was supposed to ask. Did he ever on the 5th hole at Augusta try to hit like 3 woods out of that bunker to get enough top spin to roll it onto the green? Is this like a true story?
That's a true story. I've seen him. He did it.
Would he do it in the tournament too? Like if he hit it down in there?
I don't know if he's there, but I've seen him take a 3-iron and hit it as hard as he could into that face on number 5. And then it changes the spin, and it would top spin out, and it would land like 100 yards. And then all of a sudden it looked like he took a bouncy ball and threw it on concrete. And I'm like, what is that? And he's like, oh, bro, you got to have all these shots around here, bro. And I'm like, you're not trying that. And he's like, yeah, I'll try it. But I don't know if he did it in the tournament, but I have seen him do that. He'll multiple times, like as hard as he can hit a 3-iron right into that big old lip, and then it's back spinning. Then when it hits, it changes over, and if he catches it like in the right spot, it gets enough launch to get over, and it will land like 100 yards short, and then it have like you threw a tennis ball or a bouncy ball down on concrete, and it just takes off.
Well, as somebody who's really good at hitting the lip in a fairway bunker, all I need to do is just start clubbing up more, because it always ends up about 60 yards short. I need to go down and loft and hit 3-irons instead.
There's a lot of things with my time with him. Obviously, he's, for that 10 years or however long his career was, but really 10 years where he played amazing. He's one of the best players to ever do it, and I was lucky to spend some time with him. But there's a lot of like what just happened moments with him, right, where you're trying to wrap your mind around like, what is he thinking, how does he do this, etc.
We had Kiz come on, and he told a story about him chipping in at the Zurich Classic to win the golf tournament. And I was really just asking you about that because it was such a cool moment. But he had mentioned that earlier in the week that neither him or Scott Brown could not chip, and that you were just watching these two literally playing like hockey sticks around Zurich Classic and somehow win the tournament.
They were putting it from like Scott Brown had one from 40 yards on the 15th hole, and he putted it. Like he's putting it the whole time. I'm like, I'm getting furious. And then we get to like our 33rd hole, which was the 6th hole at the time. And Scott hit it right behind this bunker, and you had to go over the bunker to get to the pin. And Kiz was like, and I go, can't putt that one, can you? And then he just kind of pitched out over here, played it safe. Put a condom on, played safe. So,
my gosh!
I mean, that's the one thing is the chipping is not the most required skill out on the tour. Like if you're a good chipper, it can help you, but you can get around not being able to chip and pitch the ball.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
Clearly, because they won at Zurich.
Yes, and I had no idea that he absolutely boned his pitch shot, and then it hits the pin and goes in. But that's a story for another day.
Your college performance does not relate to the National Football League. It never does.
They played side by side with each other, and he wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. That's an issue. That's a major issue.
It wasn't that he wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers.
Ever got to Texas.
It wasn't that he wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. It was Quinn Ewers' program, which Steve Sarkisian made very clear the entirety of the time that Arch Manning was in Austin. So for you to argue that because Ewers is a 7th-round pick, Arch Manning is not that good and not deserving of being first overall is asinine. It is wrong. It is incorrect.
I told you he's going to be number 1 overall. My whole thing was I'm buying
you're doing your thing now where you double down on a take that is incorrect.
The best quarterback prospect to ever hit college football can't play.
He's
over
not
a 7th-round
There were
pick
two
who didn't even
perfectly
play
rated
good.
quarterback recruits in the history of the sport.
Quinn Ewers couldn't even play at Ohio State. He couldn't even play at Ohio State.
Quinn Ewers. Go look it up.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decision that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game.